Here we go. The Philadelphia Eagles are expected to hire Kellen Moore as their new offensive coordinator. That, according to CBS Sports, Moore spent last season with the LA Chargers. Moore will be the Birds' third offensive coordinator in 3 years. Last week, Brian Johnson was let go. It's officially official now. The Eagles have a new defensive coordinator. We'll see if Vic Fangio can figure out how to get the Birds back on that side of the ball. The 65-year-old hails from the Scranton area and went to East Stroudsburg. He will take over for one of his former assistants, Sean Desai.
All right. Hey, y'all. Today it's Matt Rogers, of course, on the Honorable Mention podcast, which is a Philly sports podcast. Been around for close to 4 years now, but that pales in comparison to Jeff Warren from the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast. My guest, my buddy on. Jeff, is it 11 years? How many years is PST?
Well, we've been saying 10 and a half years, but in April it'll be 11.
Okay, so it's almost a preteen.
Yes, almost a preteen. Exactly. Look, I have identical twin daughters. They're 12. They're going to be 13 next month. They started the preteen stuff around like 10. It really was. It's happening earlier, I think, Matt.
Okay, so it is. So your show is a preteen, in fact.
Yes, definitely. We are a preteen show. Yes. Seriously, almost 11 years of doing it. I love getting in front of this microphone. It is wonderful having relationships and friendships with individuals such as yourself who are passionate about the world of Philly sports. And I just appreciate you asking me to come on. And I'm looking forward to having you on one of our Table Talk shows this week, where we're going to be getting into some Sixers as well. So it's always awesome to talk to you, Matt. Always awesome.
Oh, absolutely. So let's just jump into it. We will whip around the whole. Well, I always advertise I don't really get into Flyers. I don't watch enough, so I'm not going to BS you guys and act like I'm really giving you anything worth. No, go tune in to Jeff. Jeff definitely covers the Flyers. I give you Birds, give you Sixers, give you Phils, and the world surrounding them within their respective sports. We're going to do all of that today. We're going to start down in South Philadelphia, where the Eagles will stay. They're going to. The new plans. As a side note, I heard this week that there's potentially new plans to redevelop that area as a huge mixed-use development. That could be very interesting. As far as the football goes, since we last spoke, the Eagles pretty much cleaned house with everybody but Nick Sirianni getting canned. We always do grades A through F. So let's just get into some of these, Jeff. Start with the offense. Kellen Moore, former Cowboys offensive coordinator, former offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles now Chargers. What are your thoughts on that move?
I want to put a caveat out there with regard to these upcoming grades here, Matt. And I said it a few times when you came on the PST podcast show during our Eagles post-game shows from time to time this past season. You can't fall out of a basement window. And that's why my grades are going to be a little probably above average, quite frankly, for some of these new hires. When it comes to Kellen Moore, I don't necessarily know what happened when he was in Los Angeles with the Chargers organization. It was only for a year, but I think he does have a proven track record of being able to run an efficient offense. And at the end of the day, this Eagles offense needed some sort of change. They needed some sort of spark, and whether that's with regard to the coach, whether it's regard to health, whether it's regarding just the overall attitude. When you bring in a new coach, I think it's something that was absolutely necessary. Brian Johnson wasn't getting it done. Nick Sirianni wasn't getting it done either, and I know we're going to get to him, but I'm actually going to give this grade a B. I'm going to give it a straight up B for Kellen Moore.
Yeah, I mean, since you kind of stepped on it there, I mean, the thing is that Nick Sirianni said, and I believe him, that they were running his offense. So,
yes.
I think that to your point about not being able to fall out of the basement window, if Nick Sirianni just gets out of the driver's seat, I think that would be helpful. I think that we saw it during the first 7 games when the Eagles went 2-5 back in 2021. Jalen Hurts' first time as the Eagles quarterback. They had to step out of the way. Shane Steichen steps in. The Eagles basically don't lose for the entirety of that next stretch with Shane Steichen as the coordinator, save for I think 3 games with Shane Steichen. They went and lost. Just incredible. And then last season, the Eagles go 10-1, but the offense is always teetering, just doing enough. And then Brian Johnson is canned. I got to go with the I got to go with a B plus. I think
All right.
I could go with this is a ground rule double for me, to use a baseball analogy. I think
It's
my
fair.
only
Yeah.
my only trepidation with Kellen Moore is when you look at his lack of willingness to really want to commit to the run, and that's gonna drive people crazy in Philadelphia because it's all they talk about. But I hope something changes in the way that he has run things, and I guess maybe having those dogs up on the offensive line in Philadelphia may lend itself more to that. Or what are your thoughts? Or you think Kellen will turn a new leaf or show it, maybe a different branch, or what are you thinking on that?
I want to see adaptability because I think with Nick Sirianni, and the fact of the matter is the guy did get this Eagles organization within the past couple of years to a Super Bowl, for God's sake,
Mm-hmm.
and he did that with some pretty good coordinators, as we know. However, you can't always look at previous accomplishments and say, okay, they're going to happen again. There are new dynamics at play, new relationships at play here. And I think with Kellen Moore, I am very... I'm happy that the passing game may actually be enhanced to an extent, Matt, because I think the adaptability that Nick Sirianni was not able to get done this season, I think could actually happen if they do run into some roadblocks with Kellen Moore. Not roadblocks with Kellen Moore, but if the offense runs into roadblocks, I think Kellen Moore may be more adaptable in order to get out of certain situations and to come up with new offensive concepts along the way. If this team, hypothetically speaking, is 6-6, that's going to be pretty unacceptable to a lot of Eagles fans this coming season. And Kellen Moore, from an offensive standpoint, I think he will be able to adapt, make some changes mid-season to say, hey, look, we got to have to go in a new direction, Nick. We know that we want to run your offense in your way. However, it's going to be important that Nick Sirianni, I think, need to do some reflection this offseason and be adaptable in the future to a changing environment and offense that was figured out. Let's be honest. They were figured out this past season.
I mean, to be honest, and I don't want to trash the guy. Best of luck to him. I think he's with the Commanders now under Kingsbury, helping him out there in Washington, the DMV, the hometown area for me. Honestly, with the weapons that he had, the fact that, that offense sputtered the way it did throughout that season, he's really on the hot seat. I mean, as a coordinator, you can kind of quickly fall out of favor. And I think that, hopefully Kingsbury and those guys do well because, he could quickly see himself tumbling even further in terms of the coaching hierarchy in the NFL. Brian Johnson, I got to give the offense last season C- for the entirety of the season.
How many times did we say on the PST postgame shows, Matt, that the Eagles personnel themselves, the players, were winning games and doing what they were doing on the offense in spite of the coaching? How many times did we say that? I don't know if we're going to be saying that too often with Kellen Moore, quite frankly.
I mean, it's not that football's really, I'm sorry, guys. I mean, and I guess this will be a little bit of slamming of Brian, but just football in of itself is not that complicated. I mean, even if the other team knows what you're doing, sometimes you can just scheme things open and put them in bad situations, take bad angles. I mean, it's incredible that this Eagles team at some point, where they score 17 points on the Seahawks. That's not, that's incredible. You just fall asleep at the wheel. So yes. I like Kellen Moore. I'm giving it a B plus. So,
all right.
Over to Vic Fangio, Jeff.
Oh, my gosh. I love the hire. I really do. I mean, cover 6, something new that we're going to be seeing. And I love the fact, because it's a theme we've talked about on our podcast show for years and years and years, there is going to need to be some investments in the linebacker position, because with Nick Fangio's offense, covering an open space, especially with linebackers and safeties, is going to be so incredibly important. I think this offseason we are finally going to get to see investments in the linebacker position and even the safety position. Wow. What those investments are going to be, who knows at this point? I mean, I don't think they're going to be getting the best of the best, the cream of the crop by any stretch of the imagination, but some investments, my gosh, in these positions that are needed. The Vic Fangio signing, I'm going to give it an A. I love the fact that we are going to see something a little bit different, and I really do think we're going to see some different personnel. We're going to be talking about some players soon, I think. of who's going to be staying, who may be going. But I'm really, really excited to see what Fangio is going to be able to do, because he, like I was talking about with Kellen Moore, the adaptability is going to be there throughout the season. I don't necessarily know how stubborn he's going to be, because, boy, did we see the stubborn nature of these offensive and defensive coordinators for the Eagles this past season. I don't think we're going to see that necessarily this coming year. I just want to see coaches that are going to be able to adapt to certain situations. And I think Vic Fangio is going to be that type of defensive coordinator for sure.
Absolutely. And I do gotta, I've had some time to think on it, and I have been kind of rough on Sean Desai, but in retrospect, thinking back on the season, I think that this team was being, taped together. What do they say with sticks and duct tape?
And duct tape, yeah.
When I look back at highlights of like week 2 on Monday Night Football, you got Terrell Edmonds playing safety. You got, James Bradberry and Slay, who are not, playing their best this season. The fact that he was able to get this team to 10-1, including wins over the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Bills. I got to give Sean Desai a little more credit than initially I did, but there was that lack of adaptability. Once the Eagles defense, they figured out, because it was a scheme that was able to hold people at bay.
Yeah.
And they weren't able to, counterpunch. Once they got hit, it was like, it kind of folded up. There was no fixing the defense.
There was only so much I think that you were able to do with regard to James Bradberry in this defense and where Sean Desai put him, because I don't think anybody thought that we would see such a significant drop with James Bradberry. How many times we talk about how slow we thought he looked this year? But at the end of the day, he allowed 56 receptions on 689 yards he gave up this season and 9 touchdowns. That is horrendous. That's horrendous. And we may be getting to him in a bit. I don't know if he's going to be here next year, quite frankly, especially giving up that type those type of yards, those type of touchdowns in certain situations that they needed him out there. And he was one of the top paid players on this team.
Yeah, it's bad. We will get back to James Bradberry.
Yes.
I promise.
We will.
So what's your grade on did I get your grade on Fangio?
Fangio, I gave him an A.
Right?
Give the hiring an A. I really do. I think he's going to be able to adapt throughout the course of the season. I think he's a fantastic coach. I'm looking forward to seeing this cover 6. I'm very much looking forward to seeing it.
Absolutely. On keeping Nick Sirianni.
This is an interesting one for me, because I just went back. I go back and forth constantly on it, because as a head coach, I love the guy's energy when things are going well, of course. I love the fact that he was able to, from what we have heard, he kept the locker room, and it was more the coordinators that were falling out of grace with some of the players. And I think Nick may have been able to kind of keep things together a little bit behind the scenes. The fact that the Eagles front office kept him on as head coach means that relationships are still positively intact with regard to the head coach and players, that they're not completely destroyed by any stretch. That being said, the fact that he was unable, I keep going back to the word adapt, the fact that he was unable to really make some significant offensive changes. Yes, they made the defensive change to Matt Patricia, and it was absolutely atrocious. It was terrible. He was probably pressured into needing to do something at that point in the season. However, it's an up and down thing for me when I look at this, because I think he made some poor choices. I think he's made some great choices. And at the end of the day, I'm actually going to give it a C+ on keeping Nick Sirianni. I don't know. What's your grade?
It's not an easy answer, because I think all of us are like vacillating all the time. I think I'm going to give it a B+.
Are you?
I
Okay.
think it's hard. I think it's hard sometimes to stand the rain and not overreact in life. Sometimes things don't go the way you want to. Sometimes, your significant other is pissing you off, and you just. But
it's all
you
about
don't go
relationships,
nuclear.
right?
Yes,
It's all about relationships, and obviously Nick's relationship with the players of the front office is a lot more gelled together than the
Yes.
coordinators were. So, I mean, I think that's pretty obvious and evident at this point in the game here. So I'm giving it a C+ just because, like, man, there were times, I mean, just the collapse. I mean, it wasn't the worst collapse in Eagles history. I'd say probably second biggest collapse. And we talked about that before, but I'll give him a C+. I might bump it up to a B-. You may have convinced me. I could bump it up to a B-.
You know, sometimes you know it's not always sunshine and rainbows, as a famous movie character once said, and that's the sometimes the right call is to say, look, you know, it hasn't been pretty, but I've seen us come through before, so I'm gonna get it's the right call to make to give it a try. The guy, you know, what you don't want to see, because you just watched your former coach now win his third Super Bowl ring on another team. So what you don't want to do is have that happen. Now, you feel a lot better about letting Chip Kelly go because he can't even get back into the league at all. So that's a different case. But Sirianni has put a hell of a track record on. I mean, the Commanders would love to have him. Giants would love to have him. Damn it, maybe even the Cowboys. It's a you know, I guess McCarthy has won a Super Bowl, but that was a long time ago, and there's been a lot of futility. So within your division, you've got arguably the best coach. And so
absolutely,
I think it's hard to stand pat, but I think it's the right call.
Great point. Great point.
Yeah.
Yep. Great point.
We have some serious conversations around salary cap. Of course, this team will need upgrades. I think at the end of the season last year, you saw the poor tackling, you saw poor technique, but also a lot of times it just comes down to poor talent. I mean, some of these guys were just not ready to go. I just honestly have to say, when you're getting cooked by Jennings from the 49ers, who played well in the Super Bowl, but that guy just completely torched the Eagles. You have, you have players on the Cardinals beating their chest, coming back down in South Philly, scoring, 20 points in the second half.
Yep.
That is a talent deficiency conversation. And so let's get into some of these salary cap decisions, led off by Haason Reddick having interest. Well, let me phrase that correctly because it was misreported.
It was.
Yep. So he wants to get additional compensation because he has produced, and the Eagles aren't quite ready to, give that compensation at the moment. So they're giving him an opportunity to go seek a trade. Do you think he's back in South Philly though?
Yes, I do.
I agree.
I think this is like a Darius Slay type of thing. They did this with Slay last year. You know what I mean? See what the market is for him, and I think both parties actually want to be, they want him in Philadelphia. Can you imagine this defensive line losing Haason Reddick? What are they going to?
And Josh Sweat being the premier pass rusher? Hell no.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. What I see.
It's just not going to happen. Haason Reddick's going to be back on this team. It's going to be. It's going to be. I don't want to say a team-friendly deal necessarily, but he's going to get compensated how he should be compensated. This is simply a matter of figuring out where he is on the market.
Years and stuff.
Yeah, okay. That's what's going to happen. He's coming back. I believe he is.
So we're playing games at the moment.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It's just business. It's the business aspect of the NFL. These guys need to get paid, should get paid what they are valued. At the end of the day, that's what I believe. They're making billionaires even more millions and more billions. Mm-hmm. So let them see how much they are valued on the market. And that's what's happening here with Haason Reddick.
Yeah, the next round of collective bargaining negotiations is going to be very interesting with all these TV deals and new streaming services and all that. Folks are, if folks think players make a lot now, buckle up because
it's coming.
We are escalating. Yeah, we are. Avonte Maddox has been a good slot corner. The problem is he is perpetually injured. I've actually had the occasion to meet with him and talk with him. Great guy, great team guy. Always seems like he really gets the team up. But he doesn't come with a small price tag. Coming at about $6 million a year. 30-year-old corner who with some injury history. Do you expect Avonte number 29 to be back?
If there's a gun to my head right now, I would say no. I mean, yes, he is one of the top slot cornerbacks in the NFL, but he's played only 13 games in the last 2 years, and he's missed 36% of the Eagles' games since he was drafted in 2018. As good as he is, he cannot stay on the field. Vic Fangio is going to need he is going to need health at the slot corner spot, specifically in this cover 6 offense. Look, I just don't think that, as much as we all love him, I love Avonte Maddox. His rookie season, I thought he came in, grasped the game as a defensive back, which is so very difficult for rookies to do, and he was able to really shine in a lot of different plays that were drawn up. But I think we have now seen the type of player that he's going to be in the NFL. When he's on the field, pretty darn good, but he just hasn't been on the field. Again, 36% of the Eagles' games since he was drafted in 2018, he has missed. So I think they're going to need to move on from him, get that cap savings. Actually, it's $7.1 million of cap saving and 2.5 dead cap hit. I think we've seen the last of. Yeah, I think we've seen the last of Avonte Maddox.
Absolutely. I mean, you just have to have more assurance that you're gonna, because of the way that NFL offenses run it now. There are a lot of people are centralizing their offense through what they're doing in those slots and the seams. And if you're investing in Avonte $7 million in cap, you're expecting to be able to invest elsewhere, and then you're having guys like what was the guy's name? Eli Ricks getting cooked in the slot.
Yep.
I mean, people like that. Greedy didn't even make the team last year. I don't think I saw Greedy in the NFL last season.
I don't think he was. I didn't see him anywhere. Maybe he was on a practice squad that I'm unaware of, but I did not see him either.
That was a shocker from last year. It just shows how much you know at this time of season. If you would have told me that Greedy didn't even play a snap,
right?
Gosh, all the talk.
Yep.
Another corner, James Bradberry. We talked about him earlier. I think we both think he's gone, but what did the Eagles even get for him?
I think they're in a really tough position here with him. Again, yes, I do think that he's gone. I mean, the cap savings would be zero. The dead cap hit $4.3 million here. Look, the Eagles' pass defense dropped to 31st in the league in 2023. Ooh. And a lot of that is because of James Bradberry. I just do not think Vic Fangio is going to say, you know what, let's just bring him back and give him another chance. Let's do it. I mean, Philadelphia saves no money with getting rid of him, but it restarts the position. And it's a desperate restart that's needed, and they need to start looking to the future when it comes to the cornerback position. What is some of the young talent? What are they going to be able to give Vic Fangio, perhaps right out of the gate? They're certainly going to need to do something in free agency and the draft with regard to the cornerback position. In my opinion, I think James Bradberry's gone.
Yeah, I mean the Vic Fangio defense is all predicated on giving up, not giving up the big play, and he's a give up the big play specialist at this point.
Absolutely.
I mean, he can't run with anybody. I mean,
exactly.
He's like the exact wrong fit for what we're trying to do now.
He's getting burped by tight ends. My gosh. It was rough. It was a rough season.
And then he can't tackle. You're going to be a big, rangy corner who can't turn his hips.
That's a great
run.
Point. Yes.
And you can't tackle.
Yeah, that is a great point, because how many times did we see him just not even making an effort to make a tackle? And the wide receiver, the tight end, was getting an additional anywhere from 5 to 10 yards. That adds up over the course of the season. And I just think Vic Fangio and even Nick Sirianni, they're going to want to cut bait here. What was he last year? What was he, an all-pro, right? He was second team all-pro in 2022, I should say. 2022.
Yes.
It's a significant drop-off.
10 years ago. The 2022 season.
And where I'm going with this is
James Bradberry years.
Yeah, and the James Bradberry from 2022, when he was that second team all-pro, that gentleman is not coming back to play the type of football he played then.
No. I'm sorry. James, if you're listening, man, great guy, smart guy.
Yes.
I just don't think you got the wheels, honestly.
Nope,
I'm not trying
anymore.
to roast you, but you just don't. Sorry. I never did. So before there's any come back like, oh, Matt, but what did you play? I played high school football, but I'm here to talk about NFL football and you getting baked off the line of scrimmage. Sorry.
Exactly. Burnt toast. Sorry, James.
Fletcher Cox came up big in a lot of the big games. Defensive line was getting stymied, wasn't producing at all, but you would see Big 91 doing the little crawling thing.
Yeah.
Will that happen anymore in South Philadelphia?
I would like to see it. And I say that because I truly believe, and we're going to be talking about it on our upcoming Philadelphia Sports Table show this week about the Eagles' defensive line. There needs to be a veteran presence, I think, from a defensive tackle standpoint. Jalen Carter, got Davis, certainly, whether it's, Milton Williams, Marlon Tuipulotu, like those are the four guys that we're looking at potentially for next season. Having a veteran presence within that particular unit, I think, is going to be critical. And whether that's Fletcher Cox or whether it's a free agent that is actually brought in, I think that is absolutely necessary in terms of leadership, because this is still a very young crew, and there's still questions as to whether or not Milton Williams is going to be able to take that next step up. Marlon Tuipulotu, I think we've seen who he is, he is within the rotation. He's fine. Exactly. He's fine. But there needs to be a veteran presence when it comes to the defensive tackle position. I'd love to see them bring back Fletcher Cox on a 1-year deal because he provides that, or perhaps bring in somebody else. You don't have to give a huge contract. I think this may be one of those situations where Howie is just going to do a 1-year deal with somebody. And if it's that 1-year deal, I'd rather it be Fletcher Cox, somebody who knows and understands the team, the atmosphere, the environment of Philadelphia, than possibly bringing in somebody new, like a newer veteran. So I'd love to see Fletcher Cox back. I'm hoping he is.
See, I would love to see it. I mean, it would be weird to see him play anywhere else, but I just think that there's going to be somebody else who's just more into him than us, like somebody who's willing to step up and pay $8 million.
But it's at what,
willing to pay $3 million.
Right. I mean, it all comes down to he accounted for what? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think it was like 35% of the snaps last year. They're going to need to account for that in some way, shape, or form. And again, I don't know if that's going to be Milton Williams and Marlon Tuipulotu. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be those guys. So even if they were to bring him back and he plays 25% of the snaps, I think it gives younger guys a little more opportunity to stay on the field a little bit longer and develop too.
It's just that cap that ties up the cap and not be able to upgrade that back end, especially when you're biting the. Let me not use that euphemism, especially after the violence of this week. But when you're taking the brunt of the unfortunate situation that is James Bradberry's contract. So
yes, absolutely. You make a great point there too. Whether it's Fletcher Cox that comes back, like I said, I'd love to see him. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'm not going to be completely broken up about it because of where he is in his career, what he has done for this team during his entire tenure. When Andy Reid drafted him, I will miss him, but I'm not going to be completely broken up about it if he is not on the team anymore.
That's right. Jason Kelce, do you think he gives it another go?
I don't. I think he's done. I think we've kind of seen, just based on where he's at right now in his life, I think he's enjoying life a lot. It would surprise me if he actually did come back. I think he's enjoying the extracurricular aspects of football way too much to say, you know what, I'm going to try this again with yet another offensive coordinator with a lot of uncertainty coming into this upcoming season. Look, in the year that they went to the Super Bowl, I was surprised he came back. I thought he was going to retire that year too. And he said, we have a lot of promise on this team. And a lot of us kind of stepped back and we're like, what's he talking about here? We have no idea what we're getting with Jalen Hurts, this and that. But he knew. So he's a wise man. And whatever decision that he makes, it'll be the right one for him. And I think for the Eagles team too.
I'm leaning 60-40. He comes back. I think Howie makes the call to him, says, look, Jason, I screwed it up last year. I didn't invest in this team the way I was supposed to.
Right.
You gotta let me send you off better than that. That was bullshit. Right. The way that you went out last year, I can't let you go out like that.
Oh, I'd love to be on that call.
Yes. And Jason's sounds like, good. Yeah, right. That was effing bullshit, you know?
I love it. I look, if he comes back, I'm going to love it. Of course, I'm going to love it. Yes, I mean, play dropped off a little bit with him, but he definitely still has it. I think he's got a decent amount left in the tank.
Shoot, more than a lot of people ever have had in the tank.
Yes.
We'll be right back to talk about the Sixers after a quick commercial break.
It was still a good game at certain aspects of this one. Obviously, you're looking for good things to take away, even in a loss. Buddy Hield, Tyrese Maxey. These are some of the positives. again, we're talking about what he's able to do. It's his fourth streak. He's played 4 games for the Sixers. All 4 of them, he has at least 4 3-pointers.
All right, Jeff. So going over to what will be downtown Philadelphia in a couple years is, with the plans from the new mayor there, Mayor Parker. So the Sixers are pretty much struggling right now. It's going to be hard to see them really staying out of the play-in my mind, because of the way they've just continued to just take loss after loss. They slipped down to the 5th spot after being at the 3. Do you agree that they're going to be in the play-in tournament?
You know what I think? I honestly think, and this may be just completely Homer type of talk coming, but I don't necessarily believe in the Knicks long-term this season. I think the Cavaliers also are going to fall off a bit. And I do believe they are going to get Joel Embiid back even before the playoffs start.
Oh, agreed on all points.
Okay. That being said, when you lose the best basketball player in the world, this is what's going to happen to the team. This is what's going to happen. And I am grateful that Daryl Morey made the deal to get Buddy Hield because of what we have seen from him. And I think that sooner rather than later, look, I know it's a short sample size, but I think at some point down the road, this Sixers front office may want to give Buddy Hield a contract extension. Okay.
Yes.
That being said, I actually think the
4
Sixers,
games in, but he's been great.
Exactly. He has. He's been fantastic.
We might be jumping the gun, listeners.
Yes,
we might be, but
maybe.
Whatever. Who cares?
The fact of the matter is, the best basketball player in the world is going to come back. He is going to come back, I believe, with a vengeance. And I think other teams are going to falter. I just want this team, and I believe it will happen, that they could potentially get to that 4th seed. Home court advantage. I think it is absolutely possible. Nick Nurse is a good coach. I think they're going to pull out some wins against certain teams, maybe that we didn't think that they could. It's been the one thing that's been disappointing a little bit is how when Joel Embiid went out, Tyrese Maxey was going to get the keys to the offense. Still playing really, really good basketball. He's still playing good basketball, but hasn't necessarily taken over to the extent that I was hoping he might take over. However, with Buddy Hield, I think you have a very, very good situation. I mean, Buddy Hield's doing stuff he's doing pick and roll stuff that I was like, what is this? What is going on here? The versatility that he has provided this team, you got to give Daryl Morey credit for it. And I think because of Buddy Hield, I honestly believe that this team is going to pull out some wins when they need it. And I don't think the season is necessarily lost at this point, Matt. I really don't. I think they could get right back into the 4th seed, perhaps the 3rd seed once Embiid comes back. It's going to be I think we're going to see some phenomenal basketball with Embiid, Buddy Hield, and Joel Embiid. Maxey. I'm sorry, Maxey. Yes. Embiid, Maxey, and Hield. We're going to see some pretty cool basketball, I think, when he comes back. And I think the Sixers, I'm not down on them at all for the remainder of this season. Do I think they're going to be able to get out of the second round of the playoffs? I'm not sure about that. However, I am not concerned. I'm really not concerned. They have a real great roster. And when you lose your best basketball player in the world, like I said, you're going to go through some road bumps. You really are. But I have confidence that they're actually going to be able to get to the number 4, at least the number 4 seed, and get home court.
Buddy Hield, to your point, is shooting 52% from 3. Or 52%. I'm sorry, 52% from the floor.
These 45%
from 3.
Right?
Yes, 45% from 3. I mean, that's still ridiculous.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I don't know if he's able to sustain those numbers, but again, the fact that he provides this team so much versatility, this is the type of stuff that we wished for years that Tobias Harris was able to do every now and again. Yeah. But we know who Tobias is at this point in his career. We just know the fact. Dude, I was really shocked. I was looking at some stats recently. Tobias Harris is averaging 17 points per game this season, and I'm like, man, it does not seem like that. I know early in the season he had some really, really great games.
Yep.
Things have tapered off for him. He's shooting, from what I can recall, from 3-point range. It's like he hasn't. I mean, it's been like 10 years or so since he's shot this little. It's like 31% or something from 3-point. Right? It's not good. But anyway, Buddy Hield, I am absolutely loving him. I am a huge Buddy Hield fan. Let's bring him back for the future. Let's give him an extension.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think once Embiid gets back, they're going to be something to be reckoned with. My the reason for the question from my perspective is I'm worried that it just will be they'll lose 2 out of every 3 games, 3 out of every. I mean, that's kind of what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they're playing well in losses, but it's still a loss.
It is. And, I've heard some folks say, you look at the upcoming schedule, it's not that terrible for them to be able to really pull out some wins. I really don't necessarily like looking at schedule to determine when teams, I'm talking professional sports teams, doesn't have to be just basketball, but I don't necessarily like just looking at the schedule and saying, okay, yeah, this is a win, this is a loss, win, loss. I don't like doing that at all. However, there are certain realities where they should beat certain teams. They should. But, you never know what's going to happen with other teams. You don't know what's going to happen with the Sixers in terms of injury issues. There always seems to be some sort of injury issue popping up. Look, DeAnthony Melton, if you don't mind us talking about him really quick, I've been so disappointed that we have not been able to see him, that he has not been able to get back onto the court. I mean, he's dealing with a back injury. Yeah, I mean, and I feel bad for him too, this back injury. I mean, and this is a different back injury apparently than what he was facing last season as well. So I don't know if we're going to see him. Apparently, Nick Nurse said, 17 weeks ago or whatever it was, that he was going to be, he should be okay to go. And now it's been 17. Did I say 17 weeks? Maybe I should have said 17 games. Okay.
Yes.
Has it been 17 weeks or 17 games?
No,
I feel like it's been forever.
Games.
I feel like it's been forever.
I don't think the season was, I don't know if we kicked off yet the season. Or
You're absolutely correct. I'm telling you, time has melded into this ball of whatever for me over these past few months.
I feel that.
But yeah, they have lost a lot from a defensive perspective in terms of DeAnthony Melton, and even from some point scoring perspective too. I think if they are able to get him back this season too, as well as Joel Embiid, it's really going to help this team down the stretch.
I think to your point, if and when Embiid comes back, has his legs underneath him, I think they're a really dangerous team. I think you've got legitimately 8 or 9 guys who could challenge for 15 to 20 points, and that makes you really dangerous. You have a good coach like Nick Nurse. He knows how to draw up sets, which is something that I think we really struggled with. When we just needed a bucket, Doc didn't have a plan, and I think Nick Nurse always has a plan. He's going to diagnose something and figure it out.
Exactly.
So I do think that they have a chance to get to the conference championship, pending Embiid's health and getting his stamina back, his physical shape back up.
It's going to take some time too, folks. That first game that Joel Embiid comes back, because I really believe he's going to come back this season. That first game, it's not. He's got to get back into basketball shape, folks. It's not going to be like the first game right off the bat. We're going to see 40 points. It's not going to happen. It's going to take a couple weeks probably, but the fact that he'll be out there is going to be fantastic for this team.
He's a large human being, folks.
Yes.
Remember.
He is. Yes.
So we talked about Doc Rivers not having a plan, not going well in Milwaukee. It's All-Star break, so timestamp in this. They were 3-7 going into the All-Star break. With him, they were 30-13 when they got him. Now they're 33-20. I'll just throw that to you, Jeff. I mean, what the hell? What's going on with Milwaukee or?
Well, if you're over 30 years of age, you're getting on the court in Milwaukee. You know what I mean? Like, that's what he does. And he did in Philly. He doesn't like playing younger guys. Of course, they are a team that should be winning games here. These losses that we see, Memphis, Miami, they did beat Denver recently, but there are games that they should be winning and they're not. And again, it comes back to the same old thing we saw in Philadelphia with Doc. The stubbornness and just the inability to scheme when you need to scheme. something new. I mean, we're seeing stuff from Nick Nurse. I don't know about you, Matt, but I'm seeing like stuff.
Yes.
I'm like, wow, man, he's really pulling something out of
Yes,
somewhere
he is.
here.
Yes. Yes.
Never would we see it with Doc Rivers. And it just goes, the fact that he's able to continue to get jobs. I thought the Sixers job would actually be his last one. I really did. Just the career that he's had of just not being able to get really talented teams with really great talent over the hump. We are seeing it right now, even mid-season with the Bucks.
I would love for the Sixers to get the Bucks in the second round.
Oh, that would be so fantastic.
Please, whatever we need to do. Let's just figure it out. Joel, sit out just enough. Maxey sit out just enough. We want Milwaukee. We want Milwaukee. Let them get up 3-1 on us.
How fun would that be in the Wells Fargo Center that night? Oh, that would be so great. Oh, if game 1 was in the Wells Fargo. Oh my gosh. It'd be wonderful.
Oh my God.
Yes.
And I think the Sixers are a dangerous team. I do think they're ahead of schedule. I agree with you that I would, with a healthy Joel Embiid, I'm way more afraid of the Sixers team than I am of the Knicks. The Knicks could sneak into a conference finals, but they've got to play out of their minds the way that they've played all season. And I don't think that they can stand some regression. I think that the Sixers can beat you on an off night. I don't know if the Knicks are beating the Celtics or the Bucks on an off night.
Exactly. Look, and the Cleveland Cavaliers have been pretty impressive as well. I mean, they haven't necessarily beat the greatest teams in the world during this the stretch of amazing basketball we've seen from them. But I mean, first round, if it's the Sixers and the Cavs, I mean, the Sixers are taking it. You know, I'll take that 10 times out of 10. they're gonna beat the Cavs, of course, if they see them in the playoffs.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not worried about the Cavs at all. Not to be disrespectful, even though it was a little bit disrespectful.
No, it's not. It's just it is what it is with some of these teams. Like I'm not worried. They have talent. They certainly do. This is going to drop off for them. I am absolutely certain that it's going to for the Cavs. I don't think they're going to be able to sustain it.
The only team I fear in the East is the Celtics. The
Boston. Celtics.
I think they still got our number. They've got us psychologically. They've got the better team.
Yep.
That's the team I'm like, okay, if they gentlemen sweep us, I'm not going to get myself too upset.
Absolutely. Yep.
Folks, we'll be right back to round it out with talk of the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll be starting soon, right after this quick commercial break.
Consistency of having the same roster basically is so good for us because our makeup and what goes on in that clubhouse is really special. It's the best I've been around. And so you want to keep that, but they're very talented and they grind and they fight. And it's almost like sometimes like a college, the energy that they bring.
All right, Jeff, we're rounding off the show talking about the Philadelphia Phillies. On opening day, the folks online kind of expect the lineup to be what it was last year. But do you expect Tomper to keep Kyle Schwarber in that leadoff spot? I mean, he says that things are still fluid, but do you believe it?
Yeah, I think he's going to be in that leadoff spot. I have a feeling he will be.
He loves it.
He does. He absolutely loves it. I think we're going to see that, and until he is
what?
Until he's forced. Like
he's batted under 200 at the leadoff spot. I mean, he's not changing this. This is in stone. This is
if it's under 100. Maybe.
I mean, what has to happen?
Exactly. I just do. I think he's going to be in the leadoff spot for sure. He's going to be. I mean, maybe, and I know maybe the new addition could be put in the leadoff spot. Who knows? New addition. I don't know. Do you want to get into that right off the bat here too?
Well, let's just do it. Yeah. You think Merrifield will be an everyday guy?
I think there's a possibility that he could be, based on his health, because the fact of the matter is there's an immediate fit for Merrifield right away. You're giving some insurance to Brandon Marsh, who's going to be working his way back from his minor knee injury. He's also a righty as well. That's going to be a nice
Yep.
addition to a batting lineup.
It is.
Sometimes it's heavy on the left-handed side of things.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
started 365 games in the outfield in his career, 181 of them in right field. He's also played more than 700 games at second base too. So he is very, very well-versed with regard to some infield play, outfield play as well. And let's not, it's his numbers, his batting average. And I know batting average is not everything, folks. I know that. Playing for the Blue Jays and the Royals, he's got a career 284 average, 201 career stolen bases here, Matt. I mean, he led all major league hitters in stolen bases in 2018 and doubles in 2021. So with that being said, he's going to be a pretty good guy to get on base, I think, right out of the gate. So who knows? Maybe he could potentially be the leadoff man. I don't know. I think they're going to stick. I think Thompson's going to stick with Schwarber, but I absolutely love Whit Merrifield come to the Phillies.
The thing is I know what Tomper's trying to do, because that the psychological impact of Kyle Schwarber jumping on you with that first pitch dinger is just crushing. But I think you can get, and it's also really nice if you get a Rojas or a Marsh on the back half of the lineup. If they get on base, then he steps to the plate and people are really in trouble. I think you can still get it. You can still get that extension of a rally if you get a Trey Turner there or a Merrifield in that leadoff spot. Let Schwarber, people have to pitch around Schwarber to get to Harper to get to Castellanos. I think you can still achieve that goal of extending a rally and putting the pressure on people without having to take the reality is this guy batted under, I believe, or if he got over 200, it was barely over 200. The guy, your leadoff hitter hitting 200 is just not a good start.
It stinks. It does. I mean, it really does stink. Look, you mentioned one particular player as well, and that's Johan Rojas. And we talked about this move being, insurance policy to Brandon Marsh. I think this is immediate insurance plan for Johan Rojas, a guy who is very light hitting, but yes, a speedy center fielder. And the Phillies are going to be giving him a chance, of course. I mean, they're going to be sticking with him at various times throughout the season after a strong end to last year's regular season, but an invisible postseason for sure. Yes. This is an insurance policy for Rojas as well. So the versatility that Whit Merrifield is going to be able to give this Phillies team throughout the course of the season, I think it's fantastic. I really do. And I think it's a great addition. It makes me think that this offseason for the Phillies is right around a B+, even though they really didn't make that many moves. I mean, if they had gotten like Ohtani or something like that, it would have been A+, of course. Yeah. But a lot of people talking about, okay, they really didn't make too many moves. Yes, the Aaron Nola re-sign was absolutely huge. Great. It was, and they're going to need to, I think, in my opinion, extend Zach Wheeler at some point down the road. That may not happen until after spring training. Yeah. So Whit Merrifield bringing him in, it's the right move. It's the right move and the right decision to make.
Yeah, I can't wait for Wheeler to get his to get his money. Basically, signal that he'll retire as a Philly. I mean, great guy, great team guy. Nola, you don't just get pitchers of that quality growing on trees. It's really hard to replace that. And some stability is really important. Rob Thompson talked about that earlier in the week. And I'll throw it on here where he talks about, all of these guys being able to kind of expect and know each other. You've got Trey Turner being able to work with Stott for a whole off season on those DPs. Maybe he can minimize some of those errors. Maybe the Phillies get some better playoff positioning. I still, as things stand now, I don't expect that the Phillies would win the East still. I think that they would still be a wild card team. The Braves are just loaded. They're a machine and they know what to do. But I think it has shown in the last couple of years, it really kind of doesn't matter because you still get them in Atlanta. You can beat them. You get them at home in Philly. It doesn't matter. You can beat them.
It's really interesting you bring that point up, Matt, because something I've been thinking about this offseason is, did Dave Dombrowski essentially make some sort of decision within his brain that said, you know what, we don't really need to compete for the NL East title? Like we don't need to compete for it. Like we're happy with just getting to the playoffs at this point. I wonder that. I mean, if you pressed him on it, of course, he would say, no, that's not the case at all. We think we can win the division. In fact, we were one game away from going to the World Series again this past year.
That's right.
I'm sure he would say that. However, I do wonder, and if just there's some satisfaction with just getting to the postseason, not needing to win the NL East, because the Braves are still going to be really good. I mean, then again, I don't know. They brought in Chris Sale. It was really the only starting pitching move that they made, and I don't necessarily know. I don't know how much. I don't know how much stock I'm going to put in Chris Sale necessarily, putting them over the top in terms of the Phillies, because the Phillies then have had the Braves number in the postseason now. For some time. So I think it's interesting how the team is constructed. The Phillies team is constructed right now to just get into the postseason, or is it really to win the NL East? That's a question I'm going to be looking at throughout the course of the early part of the season up until, the All-Star break.
You just have to get hot. I mean, they've done it now. We've got the recipe. We fell one game short of a team that we were better than. And flat out the Phillies kind of shot their load a little too quickly. I think that if Bryce and Nick Castellanos and JT were, candidly talking to you, they would say that we thought that we already won that series and we kind of let our foot off the gas. And by the time we tried to hit the accelerator again, they were already past us and we didn't have the gas.
Absolutely. It's all about getting hot, like you said. And guess what? D-backs, they got hot. They got hot when they needed it. Absolutely did. So, and that's baseball. That's baseball, folks. Sometimes it's the beauty of baseball and sometimes it's a curse.
It is. Jeff. It's always so good to talk to you about all of this. Folks got a taste of all the three that I cover, the Philly sports. Jeff, if folks go and pull up your show, Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast, what's the one people should tune into right now?
I got to tell you, we had a fantastic discussion last week with Mark Schofield from SB Nation.
Mark's a great guy.
Yeah, Mark is a former college quarterback. He is a college scout, NFL scout as well. And we got into what the NFL offseason actually is all about. Roster evaluation, what free agency means to certain teams, how they go about the process, and then with the NFL draft, that particular process, we really went in depth. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, or you can head on over to PhiladelphiaSportsTable.com. We've got all of our shows over there. So it was a good episode, Matt.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. If you enjoyed, go share the damn thing and write up the statistics. You know how these things go, folks. You gotta help us get this out there. Share, like, subscribe, and go follow Mr. Jeff Warren. Is there an underscore in there on social media, on the social media interwebs thing?
Yeah, not on Threads, just at Mr. Jeff Warren on Threads, at Philadelphia Sports Table on Threads.
Thank you all so much for listening, and listen to the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast. New one coming soon with yours truly.
Harper, high fly ball, center field. He's watching. Harris turns. Harris leaps, and it's gone! Harper with a rainmaker. And another stare down. 7-1 Phillies. And it's turning into the Bryce Harper game. Again.